What we're about to watch is Stephen Dahlin's explanation of how he came to be a high priest in the Church of Satan. If you haven't seen the previous parts, don't worry about it. You don't need to see them to understand what's happening. Now I try to make these independent of each other. Absolute nonsense. He was never a high priest in the Church of Satan. He describes joining and summoning demons and getting into witchcraft and all this crazy stuff. The Church of Satan is a non-theistic group. They don't believe in God or Satan or summoning demons or any of that, so that should be your first clue that he's completely full of it. Up to now, he told us the story of how he joined Satanism and then left Satanism. He told us he met a preacher, and this preacher, this minister guy, taught him all about Jesus, and he renounced his Satanism. The Church of Satan put out a hit on him because he left their church. It's crazy. It's absolutely nutty. So anyways, now he's a Christian in his story. Let's keep listening.
A big ball of flame goes back into hell or back to Bermuda.
Yeah, this is him describing the end of days. He was describing this movie, End of Days, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's telling us how non-biblical it is and how deeply entertained he was by the movie.
Turns into a big ball of flame, goes back into hell or back to Bermuda, wherever he was. And he waits for the next 1,000 years. And everything's okay, and Arnold saved the day. Now, as born-again Christians, we look at that thing and go, that was stupid. They didn't have anything to do with the Bible. But what about a young person who's not Bible-based? What about a young person who is not grounded in prophecy? What is the message to them? Not when all hell breaks loose and Satan takes his reign on the earth, and the son of perdition arises, we don't look for our redemption to come and the Lord of glory to come back and burn up the wicked with the brightness of his coming. No! You look to someone like Arnold to step forward and save the world.
No. You know the message that people pull from these movies? Wow, that was entertaining. Or, wow, that sucked. It's one of the two. They're not sitting there thinking that... They're not blurring reality with entertainment. They're like, this is not happening. Or maybe the odd person here or there who has deep mental problems that deeply need help can't find the line between delusion and reality. That's certainly a problem, and in their cases they should be working with a therapist to solve that problem. But the average person does not have trouble distinguishing between reality and fantasy, like you're trying to imply.
That was my old impression.
Yeah, and it was piss poor. I'm sorry, man.
One of the other movies that was very popular, Practical Magic. Yeah. Practical Magic.
Never heard of Practical Magic before.
Starring Nicole Kidman, Sandra Bullock. And
Nicole Kidman, for the record, was Tom Cruise's ex-wife. The Church of Scientology set out to destroy their relationship. They tapped his house, like they bugged it, and were using information that they gained against her to drive a wedge between the two of them. It was really, really crazy stuff. So anyways, yeah, let's keep listening.
These are two sisters that are brought up into generational witchcraft. In fact, their aunts are both witches, and they bring them up as small children into the world of witchcraft. And Sandra Bullock, she falls in love with a mortal man, but she's afraid that if the mortal man finds out she's a witch, he'll drop her like a hot potato. So she goes into the closet. She's a closet witch. And this...
The worst kind of witch, I suppose, huh? Because you never know who's in the closet and who isn't.
So she goes into the closet. She's a closet witch. And this little mischievous lady over here has a very spirited, evil boyfriend. And at one point in the movie, the evil boyfriend gets killed, and they try to bring him back, and a demon comes back with him. And now she's possessed, going after her, and at one point now, she comes out of the closet, and she decides the only way to save her sister is to come out of the closet and be the witch that she was called to be. So they have a big coming out party for her, And all the aunts call all the other witches around the neighborhoods. And they all come over there, and they form this big circle out of broomsticks. And they put the young sister inside that circle.
Okay, so the broomstick thing is my first hint that this is all just, you know, a fantasy land, because I don't think that witches in real life actually use broomsticks to, like, fly around and do their shenaniganery or whatever. I'm just putting it out there. Just knock it around the old noggin if you have a second.
And they do their incantations and all their spells, and they cast that demon out, and that demon comes out, and he burns up, and he goes into ashes, and they sweep him out the door, and they've been making a big cauldron of gunk, and so when they sweep him out into a hole, and they take that cauldron, and they pour it over into that hole and seal him up. And then at the end, Sandra ends up marrying the mortal man, and they live happily ever after. Now I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah, it was all fantasy. There's no reality in any of this, and that's okay. It's okay to enjoy fantasies. That's fine. A first-time chatter, I love making cauldrons of gunk, right? Exactly.
That movie was entertaining. At one point, it was comical. At some point, they actually knew what they were doing when they put stuff in there. But it had a message to it. And that is that you fight witchcraft with witchcraft. You got a person put a spell on you, don't worry, go put a spell on them.
What? You think is that the message that you derived from this? I think the message was, we want to entertain you. I think that's what they were trying to do.
You see the message that's being portrayed? Another popular TV show that's on now is called Brimstone. And Brimstone, I mean, it's atrocious. There's a cop that was a bad cop, and he was evil, and he dies, goes to hell, and now his assignment, given by Satan, is to go out and catch all the demons that escape from hell and bring them back. And that's the premise of the show, and that's what happens every episode. He's going out and searching for these demons. Another one is South Park.
Ooh, he's about to come after South Park. You guys ready for this one? The message of that movie was love overcomes evil. Interesting. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it, so yeah. I knew that the message wasn't that you can defeat witches with more witchcraft. That obviously was not the message, but again, this guy doesn't seem to be... Either he's not connected to reality, or he's lying. I mean, or both, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in this guy's head, but something is. Something is not quite right here.
I mean, if you watch South Park, that stuff is atrocious. You've got 3rd and 4th graders, supposed to be 3rd and 4th grade characters, and they are cursing. I mean, they are rebellious. They rebel against parental authority. And I mean, at one point, there was one episode where there was a Jesus character having a boxing match with a Satan character.
Okay, it's funny. That's the whole bit here. It's just amusing and entertaining. Can you not be entertained by anything ever? Is that like against your religion, entertainment?
And you know, TV hasn't escaped that either. Ladies, there's...
What is that supposed to mean? TV hasn't escaped it, ladies. I don't understand.
There's soap operas that have got that stuff on it.
Oh, soap operas. Okay, because ladies are the only ones that watch soap operas. Got it.
One of the ones that come to mind is called Passions. Brand new one. Complete with a witch. A good witch and a bad witch. And there's even a familiar named Timmy that can turn himself into a doll and then transpose himself into a young boy on a soap opera.
It's just fun, man. It's just fun. It's not like my cup of tea, but it doesn't have to be. Anybody can enjoy this stuff. It's just enjoyable. That's it.
And the whole premise of this thing is good against evil, but not the kind of good that we know. It's occult good against occult evil. The whole thing is that there's messages being delivered in these things. And if we're looking at it on the surface, we're not going to see it. We're going to look at it from the inside out. Another one was Days of Our Lives. For Days of Our Lives, for 4 to 6 months, they had one episode where one of the heroines was possessed, demon-possessed. I mean, to the point to where they even did the makeup and everything else. And they made this girl look like, they made Linda Blair look kindergarten.
Okay, I don't know who Linda Blair is or why I would care, but yeah, I feel like you're going a little over the top here, bud.
I mean, this was on a soap opera. And it went all the way through, and you kept wondering, you know, are they really going to be able to cast this spirit out? They're really going to be able to cast the spirit out. And all of a sudden, here comes a defrocked priest who's in love with this girl that's possessed. And of course, he decides that because he's learned all these things, he's going to do an exorcism, and he does an exorcism, and finally they get this demon cast out.
What does a defrocked priest mean again? Let me just look that up. I forget what it means. To deprive a person in holy orders of ecclesiastical status. So they removed him from membership of the church. So he's an ex-priest, basically, is what that means. You're fired. Okay, interesting. So in this weird story that he's telling, a priest that was fired from the holy order comes in and does an exorcism. Is that right? Is that what I'm understanding? And people were entertained by that, and he's just losing his fucking mind over that fact. Okay. Somebody said this guy would be fun at dinner parties, right?
But the whole thing is that these messages are out there. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, one of the most popular watch TV programs.
That was pretty popular at the time, and as it turns out, the main actress in that show, in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, complete religious nutcase. That woman is. She went on to play the main character in God's Not Dead, like 1 through 6 or whatever, and yeah, completely disconnected. That woman. She is as nutty as they come. She played a teacher in this movie that was in the middle of being fired, I think, because somebody asked her a question about like a Bible verse, and she gave she gave the kid a biblical answer that was also like historical. It was giving like a historical. There was nothing wrong with what she did in the movie. It was perfectly within the Constitution. Like, she would not have actually been fired for what she did in God's Not Dead, the first one. But, you know, they got to rev up their persecution complex as often as possible, so they made it a big deal. The ACLU came in and tried to ruin her life and all this crazy nonsense. Anyway, the point here is that woman played Sabrina the Teenage Witch back in the day, which deeply surprises me considering that she is now one of those Christians that would have demonized Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Kind of crazy. No, Melissa Joan Hart is the one I'm talking about. Yeah, Melissa Joan Hart. I could not remember her name for the life of me. But anyways, yeah. That woman she's got problems, dude. She's got problems. Deep problems.
And Sabrina and her friends battle evil wizards, warlocks, all through the show.
Yeah, it's just fun.
And again, it's fighting witchcraft with witchcraft. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some symbols. I'm going to start out, before we get into the meat of this thing, I'm going to show you some symbols.
Wait, we're not in the meat of this thing already? We're an hour and 11 minutes in by this point. I think I've made at least... This is part number 4 of this show, I believe. How are we not in the meat of it already?
Out showing you symbols. These are occult symbols. And the reason for you seeing these symbols is you're going to see them in Pokemon, you're going to see them in video screens that you see. You're going to see them in a lot of the books that we're going to go into. And you need to understand what it is that you're seeing when you see it. Now, I believe that every Christian has been given a certain amount of discernment. And what we need to do is we need to ask our Heavenly Father to sharpen that discernment so that you get this into your spirit and you get this into your mind so that when you see it, I don't have to tell you what it is. It's like, boom, all of a sudden you see it and you go, okay, that was that. Okay?
So he's basically trying to program in a fear or a phobia of specific things, okay?
So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with symbols, and I'm going to share these with you. Here's the first one. This is the universal symbol of Satanist churches.
Actually, I think that is the symbol of the Satanic Temple, isn't it? What is that symbol exactly? It looks like that's actually the symbol of the Church of Satan. Oh, no, okay. It's Sigil of Baphomet, an official symbol of the Church of Satan. That's what it is. So this is this symbol here, Sigil of Baphomet, an official symbol of the Church of Satan. It is a non-theistic satanic symbol. So this symbol does not represent worship of Satan or any of that stuff. It represents the Church of Satan, which is non-theistic. They do not believe in God or Satan as real people.
It's called the symbol of Baphomet. Also the goat of Mendes. And you notice now it's a 5-pointed star, inverted, 2 points up signifying the break with Christianity, this point down symbolizing that the center is hell or Satan, and it's a circle within a circle. You notice that there's a goat's head inside this star. Now, how many remember in the Old Testament the scapegoat, when the people of Israel were told to put the sins upon the scapegoat and send it out in the wilderness, and that's what atoned for their sins? Now, when you're inducted into Satanism, they tell you, poor old Lucifer, he was kicked out of heaven by God, and all he did was ask why God had the throne.
No. That's not why Lucifer was kicked out of heaven, was it? He rebelled against the plan's reliance on agency and proposed an altered plan that negated agency, thus became Satan, and his followers were cast out of heaven, apparently. So that's actually why. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but were thrown out of heaven. Just reading about it here. Satan's fall from heaven is symbolically described in Isaiah and Ezekiel. Yeah, it's certainly not actually described there, because Satan as a literary character didn't even exist until the book of Job. So Isaiah and Ezekiel, like 600 years before the New Testament, roughly, and it didn't even exist as the character that we know it today. Not until Dante's Inferno was written in Divine Comedy. The book was Divine Comedy, written by Dante, and the chapter was called Inferno. It was the basis for what we now know as hell and Satan and stuff. That's when the literary character that we know as Satan first appeared, really. There were a few mentions of Satan in the book of Job. Not what we know as Satan today. Completely different character, really. I've done a lot of reading on this. While these two passages are referring specifically to the kings of Babylon and Tyre, we believe they also reference the spiritual power behind those kings, namely Satan. No, Satan didn't exist. You can believe that? It's nonsense. This is from gotquestions.org/Satan-fall.html. So it's a Bible website explaining what they think about Satan. Jesus, the eternal Son of God, witnessed Satan's fall, and he mentions it in Luke 10:18. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. We know that the angels were created before the earth. Satan fell before he tempted Adam and Eve in the garden. He didn't tempt Adam and Eve in the garden. It was a snake, not Satan. It specifically says snake. And then God was so upset with snakes for doing that he cursed them to crawl on their bellies all their lives. I guess he took their feet away or something. It was not Satan that tempted Eve. Satan's fall, therefore, must have occurred somewhere after the time angels were created and before he tempted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Didn't tempt them. Whether Satan's fall occurred hours, days, or years before he tempted Adam and Eve in the garden, Scripture does not say. Okay. Well, there you go. There's a biblical answer. It doesn't seem to really have much of an answer, honestly. It seems like it's all speculation for why Satan fell from heaven. It just says there was a war that broke out and Satan was thrown down to earth. That's my impression of it.
And so now everything that you do, we have to blame it on somebody, and we blame it on poor old Satan. So he's referred to as the scapegoat.
Well, I gotta say, Satan never lied to us at any point in the Bible. God lied a lot. Satan never committed genocide. God did. If we're talking evil literary characters between the two of them, God is more morally evil. God has done more morally evil things in the Bible than Satan, by far. So, just pointing that out.
And you notice that there are keys going around the outside of that circle. This is actually a writing, and it's called Enochian keys. It's older than Sanskrit, and it actually spells out a word, and that word is Leviathan, which is the creature from the abyss, I believe in the book of Job.
Just when you're listening to what he's saying here, don't believe any of it by default. Be very skeptical of everything that he says, because obviously he's proven himself to be full of it this entire time. Don't believe it unless you look it up specifically.
So this is the satanic pentagram. When you see that, you know exactly what that is, that's the symbol of United Satanist churches.
No, it's specifically a symbol of the Church of Satan, which is non-theistic. They do not believe in God.
Here's the next one. This is the universal symbol of witchcraft. It's called a pentagram. The reason it's called a pentagram is it's a five-pointed star, and if you were to intersect those lines, in other words, if you were to draw those lines where they would intersect with each other, that would form the pentagram. I drew it like this so you could actually see the makeup of the star itself, which is wear these or draw these on the floor and then stand inside of them and summon up the spirits and charge the atmosphere on the outside.
Actually, they stand inside of them and pretend they're doing all that stuff.
And they believe that by lighting candles on each point of that star, standing inside of this and charging the atmosphere, as long as they're inside that circle, they are protected. How many know that demons don't need you to draw something on the floor if they want to really get to you? Okay? This is another way that Satan keeps them in bondage by making them think that they are the ones that are in control. Not.
Yeah, it's all complete nonsense. Witchcraft and Satanism, theistic Satanism, it's all nonsense. It's all fake. None of this is real.
That are in control. Not the witches themselves, but that's what Satan wants them to make them think. That's how he keeps them going. Here's the next one.
The Christians in the room are probably so freaked out right now seeing these symbols. Like, they've been trained to, avoid this symbolism at all costs because they think that, Satan can get to you through the eyes if you just look at this stuff. It's so sad, man. So sad. Oh, that's a Star of David, right? 6-pointed star is what that is.
This is a hexagram. Exactly as it sounds. This symbol is used in black magic.
Okay, black magic is fake. There's no connection to reality for black magic. It's not real. People don't actually ever practice black magic. At best, they pretend to freak Christians out. That's about it. Actually, I think this is a Star of David. I don't think this is a satanic symbol or whatever.
Comes from the Jewish Kabbalah, Jewish magic. It is a symbol of dark summoning. What I mean by that is that if you want to put a hex on somebody, you want to cause a spirit to come forth, this is the symbol that's used. It's called a hexagram. Now, it is not, never has been, never will be the Star of David.
Okay, set me straight then.
Show me in Scripture anywhere where David was instructed to come up with a symbol of a star representing him or the city or the country of Israel.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, you realize that the Bible in the Old Testament are not actually the only books that the Jewish people have as part of their holy books, right? There are more books that Christians don't use that the Jewish people do use. You realize that, right? Also, the Star of David is a cultural symbol for the Jewish people. In fact, I believe that the Star of David is on the Israeli flag now, isn't it? I think it is. Anyway, yeah, he just wants everything to be satanic. That's the bottom line here.
It's not there. The other thing is that Solomon was a wise king, but he was also a dabbler. Why do I say that? Because Solomon had many wives, and those wives came from different cultures, and those different cultures worshiped different gods. And guess what they brought to the marriage with them? Witchcraft.
Oh my God! Wasn't Solomon considered to be one of God's most favored servants or people or whatever? Is that right? I don't know. It's been a while since I've read the story of Solomon, but if I remember correctly, he was very well respected by God. So it seems like everything that he's saying right now is extra biblical. Seems like he was blessed with wisdom by God, right? It seems like he's just making things up and, he's just adding extra information to the Bible that doesn't belong there, it seems to me.
They brought those gods with them. Why do I say that? I don't. God does. Go to 1 Kings, chapter 11. Starting with verse 1. But when King Solomon loved many strange women. Why were they strange? Because they didn't worship the same God.
Okay, it does not say that. It just said they could have been foreign or from a different area or whatever. It's not a fair assumption to assume that it was talking about their religious beliefs, I don't think.
They didn't worship the God of Israel. Together with the daughters of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, which is also called Astaroth.
Which is, he's going to tell you it's like this evil god, or it's like a satanic god or whatever. Yeah, there are a lot of mentions of other gods in the Bible, which is kind of weird, right? Because I thought God was the only God. It's a monotheistic religion, isn't it? Why does the Bible mention so many other gods by name? Kind of strange.
The goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination, there's that word, of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because the heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. Now go to the book of Amos, chapter 5. God's getting ready to reveal something here.
I just want to point out these are two completely different books, written in two completely different times by two different authors, right? Let's see, who wrote Amos? It doesn't seem like we know who wrote Amos. Who wrote Kings? It was written by Jeremiah, apparently. When was Kings written? It was written roughly 550 BC. Okay. When was Amos written? 8th century BCE. So 300-year difference, basically, is the point here. Centuries apart from each other. No reason to think that these books are connected in any way.
5, and we're going to start with verse 25. God is not in a good mood here. The people of Israel, the children of Israel, have been very foolish, and he's correcting them like a good daddy does.
Please don't say that. That is the cringiest shit. Please.
And he says in verse 24, "But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel?" Verse 26, "But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and Cheon, your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves." When Solomon had the temple built, he used people from a land called Tyre. Tyre worshipped a god.
Or Tyre, or Tyre. There are different ways to pronounce it. Yeah, Tyre is how it's spelled. There's another biblical prophecy that revolves around the land of Tyre, as I say. It's probably wrong. That's just how I say it. Anyway, they say that the land of Tyre will never... It'll be destroyed, never to be rebuilt. That's what the Bible says, interestingly enough. Well, guess what you can do now? You can get on Google Maps and pull it up and look. There is a city there, as a matter of fact. Tyre exists. How about that? Another biblical prophecy failed. Just like that.
People from a land called Tyre. Tyre worshipped a god called Baal. This is the symbol of Baal, not the stars of David.
Again, I don't believe basically anything this guy says without hard evidence, and I haven't been provided any, so.
This is the seal of Solomon. It comes from the Jewish Kabbalah, and in that time, that's Jewish magic. You see, not all Jews worship the same God. Does that mean that the people of Israel, because they've taken that symbol for the symbol of their country, does that mean that they're evil? No. They're deceived.
They believe that anyways. You know, Christians have a weird relationship with Israel and Jews. They always have. They want the nation of Israel to exist. They need it to exist. It's required if Armageddon is going to take place. But the people that live there, the Jews, they believe them to be wrong about everything, and they think that God's going to destroy them in Armageddon. So they defend the city because they need them to be alive for now, but they fully intend for God to come out and destroy them soon. It's like a love-hate relationship. It's kind of disturbing, to be perfectly honest, the way that they view it.
It's very subtle, and Satan, we all know that Satan can deceive people very, very well. Here's the next one. Everybody recognizes the one at the top.
Oh, now we're getting into the Ankh and the Illuminati. Oh my God.
All-seeing eye, one found on the back of the dollar bill, and also the seal of the Illuminati. But what you don't know, or may not know, is that the triangle has always been a very powerful occultic symbol, because it's a spell-casting symbol, and it actually represents the three elements of all witchcraft: earth, wind, and fire. Hey, wasn't there a group called that? Huh. Down here is a symbol, it's an Egyptian symbol, and it's called the Ankh. It is the universal symbol of reincarnation. It's the worship of the sun god Ra and his son Horus. And you notice, now this was in existence before Jesus, but you notice it almost became a mockery, because as it comes up, it has a cross, and then it loops. And that means that life doesn't end, it just continues on and on and on and on.
Is he making this up? It's a distinct possibility that he may be.
Universal symbol of reincarnation, the Ankh. And you know, it just really gets my heart, because I've been going through, on this last tour, I've been going through airport after airport, and I've seen these things being worn on young men with big gold chains, hanging on around their neck. And I pray to God they don't know what that means. I really do. Here's the next one. Now, the one at the top you've already seen. That's a satanic pentagram.
Again, I think this is just a symbol from the Church of Satan, non-theistic. I don't think it means anything crazy or special or whatever.
This one down here is a very interesting symbol. This was actually introduced as a piece of jewelry in 1969, early 1970.